Growing up, I was a really big fan of following all the rules. Grandmothers really liked me for this, but my friends, well, they gave me a t-shirt my senior year of high school that read, Porta Parent. Porta being for my portable size, and parent for the obvious rule following. And a big part of my love for following the rules was avoiding risk. Not at all cost, but how many 16-year-old boys do you know who got points taken off their driver's ed exam for driving too slow? And the thing is, this risk aversion was completely self-imposed. It's not like I grew up in some strict household. In fact, I was the one who would have to tell my dad to finish his vegetables before we could go on to dessert. So somewhere along the line, I became my own worst enemy, and maybe a little bit of my father's too. But then I turned 21, and I was studying abroad in New Zealand. And I thought, what better time to take a few risks than being halfway around the globe in the adventure capital of the world. And I have to say, I got off to a pretty good start, too. On my first night in New Zealand, I had more beer than I'd ever had up to that point in my life. 2.5 beers, baby. I mean, things are going pretty wild and crazy in New Zealand. And it only escalated from there. So I was on spring break and on a road trip, and I was with a group of friends, and we had just stopped in this small town called Hokitika. And my friend Laura came up to me and she said, "Shaun, how do you feel about skydiving?" Now, it really took all the restraint I could muster to keep the lurking porta parent inside me from telling Laura how I really felt about skydiving. But the most amazing thing happened. I said, yeah, let's go skydiving. And it's strange because the very next day when I woke up to go skydiving, I really wasn't all that nervous. And this is after being woken up at 4 o'clock in the morning to my hostel bunk bed shaking vigorously back and forth. And in my sleep-deprived state, I thought, a young German couple had stumbled into the hostel late at night and occupied the empty bunk below mine and, But it turns out it was an earthquake. And you'd think that this might strike us, or at least strike me, as some sort of bad omen. But anything is better than waking up to fornicating Germans, so we continued on our way. And when we got to the skydiving hangar, it was complete chaos. And not for the earthquake, it was just chaotic. And there were people running around, and there were parachutes all scattered all over the ground. And out of this chaos, a man approached us and introduced himself as Michael. And at first glance, if I had met Michael on the side of the street, I would have thought he was looking for drugs. He had this long, unkempt hair and a haggard face and really hollow jaw. And at the same time, he spoke confidently and calmly, and I had these bright and focused eyes, and he had this amazing walk where it looked like he was just floating on the ground as if gravity no longer had a real hold of him. And he says to us, "You know what a banana is?" We're like, "Yeah, we know what bananas are. We just had bananas for breakfast." He's like, "Good. When I tap you on the shoulder, I want you to be the best bananas you can be." So that was all the instruction we had before jumping out of a plane at 12,000 feet. It was how to be a piece of fruit. And 20 minutes later, we were, approaching 12,000 feet. And we were crammed into this small plane, and we were spooning with our skydiving guides. And Michael was attached to my back, and a similar haggard-looking guy was attached to my friend Nate. And a man who looked strikingly similar to Bilbo Baggins was attached to Laura. And we were getting higher and higher, and to the east there's Mount Cook, which is the tallest mountain in New Zealand. We're right at eye level. And to the west is the Tasman Sea just spreading out before us. Now, people often ask, what does it feel like to actually go skydiving? And for those of you who haven't been before, the only thing I can really think of that might be remotely similar is being born. Everything in your early existence in your mother's womb is all nice and soft and calm and quiet. Then bam, doors, vagina open, damn, it's cold, there's tugging in and around the crotch area, there's loud noises. Then everything begins to slow down again, and the world comes at you from a brand new perspective. And you're being cradled by a 30-year-old man in a parachute, not your mom. Not your mom, but, it's close enough. And when we landed, I thought I'd found my calling. It's like, this is it, Michael. How the heck did you get this job? He's like, man, it took 5 years of bagging these damn parachutes. It's like, but man, what is it like to fall from the sky every day? He's like, oh man, life is pretty sweet, bro. And when we got back to the hangar, they quickly said their goodbyes. They had other customers. But a part of me thinks that they really just wanted to be back in their natural element, flying above the earth. And about an hour later, we were back on the road, and we'd stopped to check out a waterfall. And on our way back to the car, we saw a man approaching us, and we recognized him from the skydiving hangar. And he comes up to us, and he says, did you hear the news? And we're like, what news? We'd been on the road for maybe an hour. We had no radio. There was no news to hear. And he said, the plane you guys were just in took off with 4 college-age students like yourselves and their guides, and it got about 100 feet in the air before it had mechanical difficulties and crashed back to the runway, and it killing all 9 people on the plane. And in typical New Zealand fashion, the guy finished by saying, buy yourself a lotto ticket. And I found out later that my jump was Michael's last jump alive. And I've spent a lot of time thinking, about the what ifs of this story. But there were no what ifs for Michael or the other guides. They were doing the thing they love to do. And yeah, it might seem risky to all of us. But sometimes the biggest risk is not taking any risk at all. Thank you.